a serpent at the fire, stoned and left for dead, disregarded, disrespected, unappreciated, and yet he survived.
Come on.
And even as he pens these words to the church at Philippi, he pens these words while he is sitting in a prison cell awaiting trial where he might receive the death penalty. And with holy audacity, Paul has the nerve to pen these words. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yes, sir.
In other words, don't worry about me. Because I've been through enough now. That I'm sure, with no uncertainty, that there's nothing I can't handle. Now, question is, how could Paul make such a claim? And how can you and I join him in this same declaration? If you keep your Bibles open and do your best not to go to sleep, I promise I won't make anything up and I won't keep you too long. Verse 10 and 11. The first reason he can say there's nothing I can't handle, and the same reason you can is, number one, Paul was saying, I'm learning to be content. That's number one. That's number one. That's number one. I'm learning to be content. Paul says in verse number 10, I'm glad that you're renewed your joy for me. I rejoice over you because at last you have reconnected with me, and now you are supporting my ministry. Again, I understand it was not that you had in any time lost heart, but you had just had no opportunity. See, the church at Philippi was the kind of church that Word Assembly is. It was a church that supported the man of God's ministry.
My Lord.
From the very beginning, all the way, the church at Philippi supported Paul's ministry financially. But along the way, they lost contact with Paul, even though they still had a heart for Paul. They didn't know what had happened to him, and the miles that separated them kept them from finding out with immediacy. And at last, when they learned that he was locked in a jail, they sent a fellow from the church by the name of Epaphroditus. And they sent him bearing gifts to bless the man of God and support his ministry. When he arrived, Paul's heart rejoiced, not because he was looking for money, but his heart rejoiced because when Epaphroditus showed up, he showed up as a physical expression of the support that the church had always given. Matter of fact, he says, I want you to know, verse 11, that I'm not worried about the gift because I've learned how to be content. He said, I've learned. Now, what he really was suggesting is that over time, I've been learning how to be content. Don't let no holy roller fool you. You don't just get saved, wake up in the morning, and all of a sudden everything's all right and you're content. You don't just fast during Lent, and after the fast is over, all of a sudden you reach this new state of contentment. You have to learn how to be content. This kind of learning you can't get in the microwave. You got to put it in the oven. You got to go through the fire. You got to go through the flame. You got to go through the heat. You got to bake a while. Contentment is one of the most difficult states at which to arrive, particularly in a Western civilization. It seems in America that our materialism has intoxicated us to the extent at which the more we get, the more we want.
Yeah.
The more we have, the less we can live without. There seems to be an insatiable appetite within the DNA of the American soul, from the government to the ghetto, that says, I gotta have, I gotta have, I gotta have, I gotta have. No salary is good enough. No man is good enough. No woman's good enough. No position is good enough. No ministry is good enough. No church is good enough. No hairstyle is good enough. No fashion is good enough. No car is good enough.
My Lord, my Lord, my Lord.
Contentment is not achieved by arriving at what psychologists call an aha moment of awareness. No. Contentment rather is learned over time.
Yes.
Paul says, I have learned over time. In other words, I'm learning even now as I sit in jail how to be content.
Yes, sir.
His word suggests that the myriad of experiences, the various and diverse experiences of his life, have all been tutors that have helped him in the classroom of life,
Yes, sir.
as he's been enrolled in the school of hard knocks.
My Lord. My Lord.
That somehow, some way, everything in his life has converged upon him in such a way that now he has learned to deal with any situation. The word content in the original language means to be self-sufficient. To have within oneself everything that is needed for any situation. Paul actually borrows this term from the Stoic and the Cynic philosophers because they believed that one could arrive at a certain state in which they had an independent spirit and a free outlook upon life. But Paul does not subscribe to Greek philosophy. He simply uses and borrows this word as a point of reference for his church culture. Because Paul understood what you and I must understand, that you will not learn contentment until and unless you find contentment in Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
When you learn to be content, your mode of operation in the circumstances of life will change. You'll move from being a thermostat Christian, and you'll be a thermostat rather than being a thermometer Christian. H.L. Wilmington suggests that thermometer Christians are those whose satisfaction is totally dependent upon their circumstances, that they simply register the prevailing spiritual temperature. But a thermostat Christian is one who is not dictated by external circumstances, but is dictated by internal sovereignty that lives within, so that no matter what's going on around you, because you're regulated by the one within you, it doesn't matter what happens to you. As you learn to be content, you'll stop allowing yourself to be dictated by circumstances. Your mouth, your mind, your reactions, your faith level, your expectation levels will all change, because you understand where contentment comes from and where it does not come from. You will learn over time that it comes from Christ, not from a Swiss bank account, not from an IRA, not from a 401k, not from a CD, not from an investment, not from a savings bond, not from a six-figure salary, not from a great benefit package. Contentment comes from Christ. Good health is good. Good looks are good. Being in good shape is good. But contentment comes from Christ. It doesn't come from your social affiliations, your social associations, your social location, your social status, your political clout. It comes from Christ. It doesn't come from your cars, from your cash, from your cabins, from your cashmere, from your carrots, from your coach, from your Juicy Couture, from your Donna Karan, from your Michael Kors, from your Calvin Klein, from your Creature Comforts. It comes from Christ. corporation or becoming a professional, getting elected to political office. It comes from Christ. It doesn't come from Cavassier. It doesn't come from Cristal. It doesn't come from screwdrivers. It doesn't come from martinis. It doesn't come from Long Island. It doesn't come from Hypnotic. It comes from Christ. It doesn't come from sex. It doesn't come from sexting. It doesn't come from a good night kiss. It doesn't come from kiss me through the phone. It doesn't come from shake it down. It comes from You can say there's nothing I can't handle when you can say I'm learning to be content. I don't